Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So tonight we're going to start off with a story. And this friend, he grew up in South Florida, in an area of South Florida that white guys normally do not grow up in. This guy is not a bigot. But I see him out one night, and I sit down at the table with him. There's two other guys there. And I hear this man say some of the most bigoted, racist stuff I never would have imagined him saying, to be honest. Now, I've known him long enough to know that he's got his Curious George patch on upside down. There's something going on, and I have to wait and see how it ends. But he's like, yeah, went in to bid for that job. It was me and two Cubans. You know who got that? And the guys are laughing. And he goes through and he outlines a whole bunch of scenarios like that. And they're laughing and talking about how true it is. And then he's like, man, I love being white. White privilege is great. And for that brief moment, you could see it on their face. They couldn't deny that institutional racism existed. Now, I have no idea if this was actually an effective tactic. I never saw these guys again. Could have just been a brief thing. But for that moment, they knew it was real. And there was no way they could deny it because they'd been talking about it and saying it was real all night. Now, the reason I told you this is because over the last couple weeks I've had questions come in from different people, very different situations, but they're all the same question. How do we deal with bigots that are in our lives that we can't get rid of? It's tough. That is tough. I'm trying to give you some advice on these, mainly because there were so many. And just understand the advice I'm giving is more about changing how they act rather than what they believe. In an ideal world, we'd all be out there winning hearts and minds. At the end of the day, if you got a good hold on them, their hearts and minds will follow. Just have to change the way they act, at least around you. First guy, putting the ages together here, you didn't say, but from the timeline you gave, this guy sounds to be 60 plus years old, and you have to deal with him. You've made some efforts to limit that contact, but you live in a town of 3,000 people. Oh yeah, y'all are going to meet again. So how do you reach out to somebody who is 60 plus years old and a bigot? You don't. Don't even waste your time with it. Seriously. It has been my experience that when you were talking about racists that are that old, the amount of time it takes to create any real change in them is substantial. And if you were to take that time and devote it to reaching out to 20-year-olds, you could reach 10 20-year-olds in the same amount of time. That 60-year-old, he's going to be dead in 20 years. Those 20-year-olds, they will be influencing people long after you're gone. You got limited resources. Use them wisely. On this one, just let nature take its course. Put your effort where it's going to make the most good. Just from math. Just looking at the math on this. If you waste that time trying to reach out to this guy, you are 580 years in the hole. That's how much influence could be created. 580 years. Anyway. Next guy, his boss, is openly racist. But he needs the job. And he's a white guy. And he doesn't know how to deal with it because he just doesn't like hearing it. Okay. This is easy. This one is easy because the business deals with the public. Leave out a newspaper article the next time somebody loses their business because they said something stupid on Facebook and word got out that they were racist. Leave the newspaper open to that article. Share it on Facebook if he's following you on social media. Just get it out there and put it in his head that he can lose his business because of these stupid ideas. Again, you're not changing hearts and minds. But if you got him by the wallet, well, his actions will change. The next one is tough. The next one's tough. The next one is very different because it is not run-of-the-mill bigotry. The woman is dating a veteran, and he has a lot of negative things to say about Arabs and Muslims. Based on the years you said he was there and where you said he was, this is probably a defense mechanism. It's really common, extremely common. Throughout history, most normal people, there's a small subset that this doesn't apply to, but most normal people need to dehumanize their opposition. Because if they don't, and the opposition, those are people, that means everything they did to people, not their favorite racial slur. The question I'd ask you is, did this only come up because he was around some of his older Army buddies that he doesn't see so often, and you just heard it all, and now you're concerned? Is this something that's only going to come up every once in a while, or is this something you're going to have to deal with every day? I would weigh this one out really carefully, because when you open this can of worms, you're probably going to need professional help along the way. When you take away that crutch, and that's what it is, it's a crutch. Racism in this case is a crutch. It helps them justify actions. You didn't do that to a person. You did that to whatever. I'd make sure first you're going to stay with this guy forever, and second that you're ready for it, because this will get nasty. This is going to be a rough road. The next one, you said the South. I don't even consider that the South, but I do understand that in a lot of ways that is more the South than a lot of the South. She says that anytime she hears the N-word, she corrects it as politely as possible, and that this causes problems at times. It seems like she's looking for another way to do it. This is not a great tactic, and I'm sure there will be some people who are not happy with this, but I'm of the firm belief that women do not understand the power they wield in this particular battle. If women tomorrow, coast to coast, decided that bigotry was unattractive, it would be gone in a generation. If bigots had trouble getting dates, it would disappear. Now, I know that's basically encouraging your own objectification. I understand that. I do. It's a tactic. And it's one that I do believe would work. I'm assuming that if you are as passionate as you seem in the message about this, your friends, your other women friends, are probably the same way. And if it became known that these are qualities you don't find attractive in men, you wouldn't see them anymore. You really wouldn't. They would disappear. Again, you're not really changing hearts and minds, but you're changing the way they act. And if they have to conceal the way they act, then, well, eventually they're going to stop thinking that way. It's a lot like racist jokes. Where I'm at, there's not a lot of overt racism anymore. It's jokes. And the best thing I have found to deal with that is to pretend like you don't get the joke. Because the reason they're hiding it in a joke is that they're not comfortable being openly racist. So when they finish the punchline, you're like, I don't get it. Explain it. And you have to drag it out of them. And they have to openly admit the racist undertones of the joke. Well, then it's not funny anymore. And then they also don't get to hide behind it. What happens is they stop telling the jokes. Maybe not everywhere, but around you. And this is one of those things where it's a huge battle, and every little bit helps. If you can shut them up for 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes of peace that somebody else might get. I mean, there are a lot of ways to deal with racists. There are. All of these seem to be looking for more subtle ways. So those are the options I'd give you. I do love the fact that we are seeing more and more people who are not racist become anti-racist, because that's what it's going to take. And even if it's just little things like this, it can make an impact. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.